Welcome back to the channel. Today is June 15th, 2026. And today I want to talk about Bitcoin. But before getting into that conversation, I just want to mention this. I am a amateur trader investor. I have a day job and it does not involve finances. Bitcoin is one of the most talked about assets in the world, if not the most talked about asset. And there are better traders, investors, and analysts that review Bitcoin on all the time because there's a lot of hedge fund money, there's a lot of retirement accounts that are in Bitcoin because of its volatility and its based on the daily and weekly charts, huge bull runs. So when I saw so keep in mind I watch all those same investors and traders to try to pick up, little bits of expert knowledge, and no expert trader that I've looked at has actually ever brought up this chart that I'm about to show you. So please consider this as me as an amateur just simply asking a question of much better traders, investors and analysts. uh Essentially, what are your thoughts on this question that I'm going to bring up? So if I close this tab here, this is Bitcoin, and if I were to look at this chart, it doesn't matter what the time frame is, and I saw this candle here, and this is a printed candle. This is the candle for 2025, and that is a indecision candle. You'll notice that the body has almost equal highs and lows. It's more on the bullish side. It would be a perfect indecision or spinning top candle if the wicks were of equal length below and beneath the body of the candle. However, it is leaning more a little bit bullish based on the candle. But if I were reading this on January 1st, because I didn't look at this on January 1st, this to me would be Bitcoin saying, I don't know if I'm in a bull run anymore. Now, before this candle printed in December 31st, we had October 10th, which clearly was the top of Bitcoin, and there was that big crash, and then it kind of recovered a little bit. But all the traders and analysts, by November had pretty much said the bull run for Bitcoin is over, and we're now starting the bear market of Bitcoin. And no one was alarmed because this seemed to be the normal 4-year cycle of Bitcoin. And everybody, and now the question is switched to, okay, how low is Bitcoin going to go? It does this every 4 years. And well, now all the speculation is how low will Bitcoin go? And are we there yet? If we hit the low bottom, is there more, or is there more bottom? And that's what every trader, investor that you see on YouTube and on Twitter and, well, X, sorry, Instagram, whatever, Rumble, whatever you're watching, that's all that's what they're talking about when they're analyzing Bitcoin. My question is that if can we only ever measure an asset, whether it's in a bull or bear market, based on whether on the daily and weekly chart, or can we also look at it from a yearly perspective chart to tell if a if an asset is in a bull or a bear run? That's my question to the investors and traders of the world. And the reason why I bring this up is if I expand this chart is essentially the Bitcoin on the yearly chart. And if you look at it, you can clearly see that the candles are getting weaker. And you can't really unsee this. So what do we take from this? Is the world ending for Bitcoin? No, I don't think so. But I want to introduce another kind of thing that I've learned in trading over the past 3 years, and that is I probably learned this more from day trading or scalpers. There's this theory. I don't know if it's a theory. I don't know if all traders subscribe to it, but I've heard it talked by other people than the first person I heard it from, and that is kind of this wave theory, and that in an asset there's typically only 3 to 5 waves, and therefore after the fifth wave, I don't know if there. I'm sure that there's probably an asset that's gone more than 5 waves, but usually when you look at an asset, it's 3 to 5 waves, and that's what I want to kind of go over here. Is if we go back here, the first wave is here on Bitcoin from uh, essentially from 2010 all the way up to, let's say, 2013, and then in 2013 it started its first bull. It had a bear market, and but from a yearly perspective we would call it a pause. The pause is where you have your assets. So you have, when you're going to have an asset, it doesn't go just straight up. It typically has little jagged pauses, and we talk about higher lows and higher highs. And when you start having this, higher low, the point to where you go from here to the higher low is a pause. And so I'm just going to erase that here. And so to me, this is pause one. If we go here to the next wave, this is wave two. You go from here, this bottom here of about $156, all the way to this 20,000, or I don't know, 19, let's just say $20,000. Okay, and then you have your next pause, which I'll bring up here, which it's this candle started in this year, went down, came down, and it hit a low of about let's say $3,200. Then it starts its next wave, and that's going from here all the way up to here, and that was about $67,000. Then we start our next wave. It got to a low of about 15. Well, it's a little under $16,000, and that was our last bull run. It came to $125,000, and that was wave four. And now we are here, and I'm just going to. This is us. We hit the $125,000, and we are on pause four. We're going down, but here's the thing. Something to consider is this particular candle has not printed on a yearly basis. It's not going to print until December 31st, 2026. This means that this candle could go up or it could go down. We're expecting, definitely in the short term, like over the next few months, for it to go down. Depending on which analyst you're listening to, they're saying if Bitcoin follows the 4-year cycle, that somewhere in October, the bottom of Bitcoin should be in. Then you have other analysts saying, no, 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 it doesn't look like it's following the 4-year cycle. It looks like the bottom is going to be in sooner, like in July or August. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not trying to argue for either argument. I'm not going to make any price predictions or price targets of where Bitcoin could go next. All I strictly want to show you is that on a yearly basis, Bitcoin candles are getting weaker and it's starting to curve. And the reason why this is important is I don't know if there's different names for different type of traders. The name that I kind of like best is position trading, And what a position trader does is it looks at a chart and tries to figure out where it is on a cycle. So if this is a full cycle where you have kind of like a sphere, it's more jagged, and I can't draw it well with the mouse that I have. Have a position trader tries to find out, okay, am I in, based on the cycle, am I here? Am I here? Am I here? And obviously, what you're really trying to time is whether you're near the top or where you're near the bottom. And as a position trader, I would say we're probably about right there. And the reason why I say that is because we are in wave 4. However, I don't know for sure if we're there because Bitcoin on December pretty much said, I don't know if I'm in a bull market anymore. And you technically shouldn't make a decision until this particular candle prints. Therefore, what would be a sign that we are more on this side rather than here is how far does this candle go? If it, for example, breaks this structure of, let's see, this is according to this chart, the low of this candle is 16,000, approximately 500. If this if this candle by the December 31st, 2026 is below below 16,800, that would be very bearish, and that would indicate that we've actually been in a bear since 2025. Now it doesn't have to crash below this candle for us to determine we're in a bear. It could just come to here. That's about $33,000. And if it closes here and you don't see any sort of, it doesn't turn green or go any higher, that would also be an indication that we are very likely in a bear market. Now, for full disclosure, I have a lot of money in Bitcoin. Um, I didn't. I sold. I didn't sell at the top because I got out actually a lot sooner. Uh, I was more interested in trying to catch the alt run, which really didn't happen. Um, so I'm by no means a perfect trader, but where we are right now is I've put money back into Bitcoin fairly recently. I hadn't seen this chart yet or looked at it, and I probably would have waited more if I had known. However, I'm not going to sell what I've invested in Bitcoin right now. However, the worst case scenario is, and I do not have any idea what's going to happen. Okay. Uh, I don't want to put this up as a video of saying, oh, all the analysts are wrong. And so that's not what I'm trying to do. I literally am just a student asking a question. Can you measure a bull run only in daily and weekly cycles? Because when I look at this from a yearly perspective, we've just been in one continuous bull run. And we haven't, and Bitcoin as a newer asset, because it would only start in 2009, it hasn't experienced a bear market yet. A couple of things to consider, and I don't usually cover these things like fundamentals and stuff like this. In November 2025, there was an article that was published that said that Bitcoin had entered its IPO moment. Technically, Bitcoin didn't have an IPO because it doesn't trade on the New York Stock Exchange, but it was this idea that the major investors in Bitcoin had exited Bitcoin because they had been, the early founders of Bitcoin. That article was pretty much ignored until about February. And in February, there was a lot of news coming out that there were a lot of old school whales that had sold all their Bitcoin. And I don't know the reason why those old school whales sold their Bitcoin, but I would say that this chart would probably be one of the reasons that they might have sold their Bitcoin. Because if you have millions of dollars tied up in Bitcoin, the amount of money that you would make let's say, I mean, I have no idea where it's going to go, but based on this, and you see these candles getting weaker, is there may be more. I'm hoping there's more upside. To be honest with you, I'm hoping that even though it's been 16 years, I'm hoping that the bear market actually doesn't start until 19 years, and so I'm hoping that there's definitely more hope, upside. I have no proof that it's going to happen. There are some other things you can look at a daily, weekly perspective that says that we're probably going to be okay, that it actually is going to go higher. I'm going to let you watch other investors and traders for that. I'm not going to get into that because there's the information available about this asset is out there a lot. If this was in my channel, I try to concentrate on less known coin because they're not being talked about, and I like to kind of hone my skills and and try to figure out what I see in the charts, see if I can make a better decision based on what I'm seeing. Therefore, don't panic. I'm not saying sell all your Bitcoin. However, if we do end up going up higher and hitting an all new time high, if you are a hodler, please remember this chart. You may want to exit Bitcoin at that point. I'm going to tell you right now, I am. I probably don't have as much money into Bitcoin as you do. I don't have my life savings in Bitcoin. However, if we do end up making a new higher high, I am going to be selling all of my Bitcoin assets and waiting to see if we are entering a years long bull run after this. Keep in mind that Bitcoin has been described as digital gold, a hedge against inflation. However, if you look at a gold chart or if you look at a silver chart, their bear markets don't last 2 years like the New York Stock Exchange. They can go on for an extremely long period of time. Silver had a 20-year bear market. It had a high in the 1980s with the Hunt brothers, and then only recently did it start going up. Gold, its bear markets have gone shorter since the dollar was taken off the gold standard. However, those bear markets lasted like 7 years. Since we've never gone through what I think a true bear market for Bitcoin is, if Bitcoin has a fifth wave, which is very highly probable, however, it's not a sure thing. After that fifth wave, the probabilities of it entering its true first bear market is very highly likely. And I don't know how long that bear market's going to last. I don't know if after that bear market it's going to inch its way up and have a new higher high. I just don't know. But it's just something I want you to consider, something I'm just throwing up as a question to the world. I'm not expecting price targets or points, but that is the question. Can you only measure a bull run on a weekly or daily perspective? That's all I have for today. I hope that God blesses you. And if you have any worries or concerns after seeing this chart, I ask you to please take it to the Lord and ask Him for advice. He does listen to you. If you don't think you're a religious person, uh, you know, ask the Lord to, go ahead and ask the Lord a question. It doesn't hurt you. And I want each of you to have a relationship with the Lord. And this might be a good place to start, especially if you have everything in Bitcoin. But that being said, that's all I have for today. I I hope and I pray that God bless your family and please be safe out there and please consider these type of charts. Take them seriously, but don't just blindly sell. Please don't. I'm not selling at this time. I encourage you to just think about it and make this decision. Pray about it. Talk to other people about it and see what they say. But in the end, it's your decision, and it's just something you've got to consider. Have a good day.